Hi, we're back to talk about organizational culture. And I know this seems like a really fascinating subject, but essentially, what we're going to be doing is first exploring a little bit about what culture is, and then talking a little bit about why culture is so important and how to shape culture for agile ways of working. But to first, we want to kind of jump into what is culture. And just so you recognize, I don't have a lot of these books just for looks around here. We actually do use some of these books. I'll be referring to a few of them. The first is Edward Sheen. And this is probably the textbook of culture. And it's not a book I would probably recommend reading as a light reading. This is definitely something you would dive into, 400 some pages of work. But let me boil it down to you for just a minute. One of the things I loved about his metaphor is he talks about culture being, in a sense, two sides of the same coin. So if you think about, a coin has a heads and a tails. Think of culture as the opposite of leadership. So we've got leadership on one side of the coin, culture on the other side of the coin. And when you think about a new organization that's just starting out, leadership is dramatically influencing that early culture. The way, in a sense, they operate becomes the culture of the organization. But then over time, that turns. And as an organization develops and as an organization is growing and has that momentum, the culture that's been developed starts to influence the leaders that come into the organization. And so we get this symbiotic relationship between leadership and culture. Leadership needs to change culture, but culture influences and directs leadership. This is one of the reasons why we, when we created the Agile Leadership Journey, we created it like this same dichotomy between leaders at the top of our compass and organizations at the bottom of our compass. And we've talked about so far how leaders think and how they act. And we've been exploring this leadership mindset and these leadership behaviors. And what we recognize is that the thinking and the acting of leaders reflects in the organization itself. And so the upper half of our compass is in a sense reflected by the bottom half of the compass. And so as we get into this lower half, we don't want to think about it in isolation. It's not only organizations have cultures and certain elements of how they work, but in essence, they are a reflection of those leaders in that system. Now, the second book, second kind of definition, maybe to help us understand this just a little bit better, comes from Schneider, William Schneider. And this was actually my first introduction to culture, thanks to Michael Spade, one of my peers in our community. And William Schneider worked tirelessly on understanding culture and how that worked. And one of the things I love about the way he describes culture is, in a sense, it's what we do around here. And I think that to me is kind of one of those fundamental, just it feels right. It's like that's just the way we do things around here to be successful in our organization. And so when you start to think about it, an organization is made up of people. It's a people system. And people have personalities and people hold value systems. In essence, what you start to see is an organization starts to be made up of those people, their values, their personalities. And this is how you start to see leaders start to influence organizations. Give you a couple of kind of counter elements of this. Some people tend to be more of these big thinkers, right? They think about these big ideas. Other people tend to be, detail oriented. I love working in the numbers and the spreadsheets. Or you might have people that are more outgoing or introspective. You might have people that love to think ahead and come up with new ideas. But then you have those people that are a little bit more love to live in the moment and just love to be in where we're at now. And so as we see different personalities, and again, personality is not good or bad, we see different characteristics come out in different people. Organizations have a value system. And so The final book I'll be referring to here is comes from the University of Michigan, and there's a number of professors, and they actually worked with William Schneider. They worked together. I'm not sure what happened. I think they split, went their separate ways, but they have a very similar model in how they work. Ours is going to be based on what's called the Competing Values Framework from Kim Cameron and Robert Quinn and Jeff DeGraff and a few others. And in essence, what this does is it lays out values in a system that talk about different polarities and how those are illustrated. So, for example, we might be talking about these what we call these family cultures and how we care about individuals and our employees in our care. And we'll talk about these innovative companies who are just out there thinking about big ideas and coming up with these new innovations and offerings and products and services. And then you got these companies that are just quick, fast to market, really responding to change very quickly. And then we'll be talking about those companies who really value and thrive on that operational efficiency and just they're there to support and drive that fluidity and regularity in their business. And so we're going to be exploring, in a sense, these value systems and how these value systems are influenced by your industry, how these value systems are influenced by the scars of your past, your organizational past, where failure has driven, in a sense, some of your current behaviors. And then we're going to be exploring a little bit later about the levers on how to shape that culture. So I'm looking forward to having you join us along this journey, exploring your culture, understanding a little bit about the influences of your culture, and then as a leader, some of the levers you can be using to start to shape and turn that culture to support more agile ways of working. So thank you.